Turn off camera. How's that?
And probably better. Anyway, so
Cool.
according to this, it says that we are live. I don't know, and we will find out in the next few seconds. Maybe, who knows? Anyway, hold tight.
All right.
Okay, let's see. Let me refresh this.
Turn off camera. How's that?
Okay, seems to be working. Oh, all right. So
Yep, I'm getting an ad on your video now. So yeah, looks like
Neato
we're live or
burrito.
something.
Okay, so just so that people are aware, I'm not going to be showing any visuals in the stream. It's going to be audio only because I am lazy and I don't feel like putting in the effort. So that's a thing. Anyway, talking to a guy called eftupworld. I've spoken to him before. He recently commented on my previous video about the Nikon P1000 being glorified for no fucking reason whatsoever. And then he made a whole bunch of videos which I don't agree with, and to be frank, I'm kind of confused about. So we're going to talk about that and probably some other shit. And also, just so you're aware, F, or what do you want me to call you?
Joe or whatever. Yeah, Joe or effed up world, whatever.
All right.
Whatever's easiest.
Joe's going to be easier. All right, so
Yep.
Joe, I am using the free version of Meets, so if we hit our hour limit, I will make another link, send it to you, and then we just pick up from there.
Sounds good.
Okay, good. Let's go ahead and figure this shit out. So, anyway, the first thing I did want to talk to you about is I don't think you quite understood what MC Toon was actually talking about. So let me just inform the audience and then we'll talk about it so that everyone's up to speed. MC Toon was making the point about stars rotating around a point in the sky called celestial poles, and MC Toon was making the point that we have two of those motherfuckers, which doesn't seem to comport with the flat earth model, if there is such a thing. And I guess there was some confusion there, so now that people are aware of what we're talking about, what was your issue with what MC Toon was actually saying?
Well, I guess to keep it so people understand what we're talking about, he had mentioned, and this is true, that if you're in the southern hemisphere and you look to that celestial pole that you can see from there, you'd be looking south at I don't know what they call it, the southern axis of rotation of the sky,
Southern celestial pole.
Okay. And if you're going to see counterclockwise rotation of the stars going around that axis. And if you are in the northern hemisphere, and you look towards Polaris and you see, near to Polaris, the axis of rotation there, you're going to see the opposite rotation. You're going to see anti-clockwise. And so that is true. I don't disagree with that. That's actually what we observe in this world. And I think you and I agree on that, right, Reds?
Sure, but what's the actual issue, though?
Well, what I'm trying to point out is that it kind of started out with the stars. He was mentioning, and I'll bring this up, and I think you've probably brought this up before, maybe even when we talked before. But if you are seeing circles, as far as like the shape of the stars going, in their motion, that we see circles, and really the only way, like the AE map, with a dome or whatever, that idea, the only way that you'd ever actually be able to do star trails that turned out to be circles was if you were directly at that, underneath, I should say, that center point. Because if you move north, south, east, west from there, you're going to be getting like an oval type shape. You're not going to see a circle, right?
That's
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's incorrect. No, you will. Also, you got a lot of echo coming from your end, just so you know.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You will get circular star trails on the globe Earth model. That is confirmed.
Yes,
And
I agree.
so they wouldn't turn into ovals.
And MC Tuna was he wasn't disagreeing with that. He was saying that on that flat Earth map, like if with the north being the center and everything, south being that ice wall or whatever they call it, out from north, that you wouldn't see, we wouldn't be able to film those circular star trails unless we were directly beneath that, say, we could just say Polaris to keep it simple, but the north axis of rotation, you'd have to be literally at the North Pole to see circles, because if you moved away from the North Pole, you're not with that idea of the dome and the stars rotating in a big circle. You as you moved away from the North Pole, you'd get more of a oval shape, star
Yeah.
trails or whatever. And my argument with that is that would obviously say that model is not correct. If I'm just being, if we were to say that the dome was, like a piece of cardboard that was on the sky or on the ceiling that was rotating with a bunch of LEDs on it or something, those we would have to be under the center of it to get circular star trails, right?
Well, you would still get circles. The circles would just be offset by where the center point is. The thing is that that's not really an argument that I would use to disprove the existence of a dome. But okay.
Okay.
But what what was the actual conclusion to this conversation?
Well, I don't think that when we talk about an AE map or something, I don't think that there is not a way to get that AE map doesn't work. That's what I'm saying. Or the idea of the dome being a big circle going around us.
Well,
But
I just want to make this clear. Not only does
Okay.
the AE map not work, there is no flat Earth model that actually works. It does not exist.
I agree 100%.
Then
And
I have to ask
so I'm not
this.
saying that I have a model or anything like that.
Well, the whole point of bringing up the MC Tune thing was actually just a springboard into whatever topic naturally comes to this, whatever this is. So I think we've accomplished that goal. So I'll go ahead and ask: if there is no flat Earth map that comports with reality and which we can use to make predictions, then shouldn't that clue you in that maybe the Earth isn't flat?
Well, I definitely have considered that for a long time, and I've thought really hard about it. And as I don't know if you saw much of that video, if you caught the beginning of it, but I agree with MC Toon with what he says, as far as the A map with the way that it's set up. I guess commonly I'll say within the flat Earth people, it doesn't work. And so you're right there. And you're saying, well, doesn't the globe seem to work? And I would agree that the model would definitely work. But the point in that video was to say, let's just say this. If we were in the southern hemisphere, let's say we were in Argentina, and we look to the southern cross or the southern axis of celestial rotation, we're going to see, would you agree that if we were to do star trails, that we would see we would see clockwise rotation if we were in Argentina?
Sure, but the point that I'm trying to make with this is that there wouldn't be a southern celestial pole at all on any flat Earth model, or at least the ones that have been spitballed onto Google.
I agree.
There are some flat Earth maps that put the South Pole in the center for whatever reason. So I guess that would have a celestial pole in which the stars rotate. But the fact remains
then the
is
north
that
wouldn't work, right?
well, it wouldn't work because then you have the problem with the north again. The fact that we have two celestial poles in which the stars rotate is indicative of a spherical surface with an axis of rotation. So if we have a model that comports with reality like the globe Earth model, shouldn't that clue you in that the Earth isn't flat? I just go back to my original
It
question.
would, but I guess that I do have some things that don't seem to be. I pointed one of them out is if you were looking at Polaris from, I'm in Minnesota, so it's at 45 degrees in my sky. I look at Polaris and I see what I see. Now, if I go to what I was saying, Argentina, I can't see Polaris, right? It's it would be what we would consider over the curve, or it would be not possible to see it if we were on a globe, right? And that would go correctly with your model, with the model of the globe. But the thing I don't see happening is every degree or every 70 miles or 69 miles or whatever, the ground would change its angle. Like, so say we were at I don't want to get into the math of figuring out how much 45 degrees is in miles and all that. We've done that. But I'm saying that you don't actually go upside down from your relative position as you travel.
When you say upside down, you mean you have to be clear with what you're saying, though.
Okay, from your, if we were to pick a point and then travel 70 miles away, I would say relative to that point we picked on the globe, that 70 miles away, we would be, I would say up or down, or because it would be pointed towards the center on a globe, like down would be towards the center. So that would change.
I know where you're going with this, and I'll say with
Okay.
sensitive enough equipment, you can actually see that angular shift with you going north to south by a certain distance. You can actually make that measurement. That's how equatorial telescope mounts work, which is another thing that comports with the round Earth model and impossible with any flavor of flat Earth model. It is, let me just say this as a definitive fact. An equatorial telescope mount, with it working in reality, that is impossible on any flat Earth map, period.
Or a model, right? But like if we had a model that we were trying to predict from, or that.
You can try this yourself. You can try this yourself with a scale model. I had Slice Barcane do this virtually to show that.
Right?
Yeah. Well, in order for it to work, it would have to rotate 2 axes of rotation, when in reality you only have to rotate 1. So,
and that's kind of the point. I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm sorry if I did. That's kind of the point I'm making though with MC Tune is that we have I can use an equatorial mount and I can use one of the sidereal motors on it to track something in the sky, right? And I don't think that would change because I believe that the Earth is flat. What I'm saying is the sky does what it does. Astronomy Live, who I think you guys do good work, like you and him, and you guys are actually that last video you made about the P1000. You made so many good points in that video that I would call it like unanswered things, and it's like people believe something that is clearly not true when it comes to like some of the stars, or like you pointed the picture of Mars and then that out of focus blob. Well, I've seen Mars through my telescope, and it looks more like the one that you had on the right side. That looks like it's detailed, and it's that if your camera's out of focus, you're not going to see what's actually there, right?
Yeah, we seem to be. I don't want to be rude here, and also speaking of which, Astronomy Live has joined us, so thank you very much.
Big fan of Astronomy Live. I love
just
your
to
vids.
give him the same disclaimer, we're not actually showing anything on screen. It's just going to be my avatar on repeat. But we don't actually seem to be answering the big $1 million question. So let me see if I can ask this again, and I'm going to ask politely that we answer it directly. Given the fact that we do not have a flat Earth model that works, and given the fact that we have a round Earth model that does work, shouldn't that clue you in that the Earth isn't flat, and that the round Earth model is the best model that comports with reality? Therefore, it's actually more reasonable to believe that the Earth is round.
And I'm going to do my best to give you a direct answer, like you just kind of asked for. And I would say uh, yes and no. Hard to explain. The globe does make a lot of sense. And the reason why I can't argue with that is because we live in a world where a lot of things make sense. And I'm saying if you're looking at a globe model, right? And I would say that the reason why I have a different belief about the ground is not based necessarily on the sky, because I believe we see the same sky, but and we observe the same sky, but it's the way that let's just say as we travel, no matter where you are in the world, up is like we're perceiving it from that point. So up is always going to be the same direction. As far as like, I'm not saying looking at it from outside and looking at yourself from outside. I'm saying we have perception. We use our body, our eyes, and our ears, and our balance and things. So down is always straight to the ground, or straight down towards the ground, and we could consider that to be a direction that's down, or we can consider it to be towards the center of a globe. And to me, if we assume that it's towards the center of a globe and that the stars are wrapping around the globe, that's a way to understand it. And I'm not going to at all, I can't say that that's wrong, but I also can say that I don't observe something from, if I'm in Minnesota and I travel to Florida, it would be, I'm just going to see a slightly different part of the sky, but the ground to me, down is still down and up is still up. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be like.
Yeah, but again, this doesn't answer my question, because that also makes sense on a round Earth model because gravity is a thing. But
no, I agree.
But to get back to it again, the round Earth model makes predictions. These predictions check out. Reality agrees with them. And so if reality agrees with them, what's the problem?
Well, let's take reality, and let me just ask you a question. This will help, kind of hopefully point out what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Is that we live on the earth, every one of us does, and from the earth, from where we live, we don't observe the ground in motion or rotating. And I'm not saying we would on a globe. It would appear to be still, and it would appear to be the same on a globe. So I'm not like arguing with the globe. What I'm doing is I'm trying to say that if we were to make an observation, it would be that the earth is stationary and that the sky is actually in motion. And do you get what I'm saying, or am I being confusing? I'm not trying to be.
I'm trying to piece together what you're trying to say,
because
here's the thing. You made mention that we don't experience the ground beneath us rotating and whatever. Well, that's because we have a 1-to-1 speed ratio with the ground if we're standing still. But keep in mind is that we also have
we wouldn't feel it.
But we also have these idiots called Bob Nodell, who spent $20,000 on a fucking laser gyro, who discovered the rotation of the Earth and then had to do a shit ton of damage control after the fact. But he wasn't a pioneer in that. This observation has been done before. Ring laser gyros have been able to detect the rotation of the Earth. Not only that, it also comports with what is predicted by the laws of physics itself. If everything was wrapping around us, eventually you go further and further away, objects would have to be breaking the speed of light in order to make it around us in a 24-hour time period, which all objects in the sky do. Maybe it's not them that's doing the moving, maybe it's us, and what do you know? The laws of physics comport with that. Reality comports with that.
And you actually mentioned...
We make a prediction.
When we were debating... I'm sorry, go ahead.
We make a prediction. So, for example, not saying that you believe it, but just hear me out. The International Space Station, relatively close to the Earth in its orbit, travels 17,000 miles per hour. However, you go way out to geostationary orbit, that orbital speed is less. It's
quite a bit less.
It needs to move slower in order to maintain an orbit. Now, two things can change the orbital speed? The distance from the object or the mass of the object? Well, we
Hmm.
know that the distance from the object is changing consistently, but yet everything is going around us in a 24-hour period. Regardless if you're talking about Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, doesn't matter. We see
Hmm.
them motherfuckers going around us in a 24-hour period. So the distance is
Yep.
changing, but yet the speed is exactly the same. So that leaves only one thing: the mass of the Earth, which means that for these individual objects to go around us, being that they're different distances away, the Earth would have to be multiple masses all at the exact same time, and there we have a contradiction. It doesn't work. But yet, if we use the mathematics that actually make predictions correctly, then that's how you get features like the International Space Station having a very predictable orbit, which is how
Hmm.
myself and Astronomy Live were able to track the damn thing going on 5 years now.
Yeah, and I think the work you guys have done, especially together, is valuable
Yeah.
because
So, but but
I
but
believe that there's a lot of people just
I love
making
I love the
making up
fact I love
things.
the fact that you're a flat Earth and you're fanboying. Believe me, it warms my cackles. But I'm trying to get a solid answer out of you. And to be fair, I haven't gotten one. So I will
Okay, I'm
ask
trying.
again. We have a model, not only a model for the Earth, but a model for the solar system. We can make
Hmm.
predictions. These predictions turn out to be the case. We can figure this shit out with exquisite detail. Given all of this, why would you even entertain the notion of the Earth being flat or the solar system not being what it actually is? Given all the observations, given all the measurements, given the laws that govern its motion, why would you hold onto a theory in quotes, that
Yeah.
does none of these things? It literally falls on its face in every aspect. Why would you still believe that the Earth is flat after all of this?
Well, that's a good question, and I mean, I can't answer it like with just like a three-word answer, but there are things that with the solar system that I don't observe, but they could make sense. Like you're saying, there's a model there that the model of the solar system and the Earth orbiting the sun and all the planets orbiting the sun. And I think I mentioned to you or asked the question, what do we actually? Or no, I was talking with Astronomy Live on your channel under your video, and I'm being straightforward and trying to say that I don't think that we actually observe anything orbiting the sun. And correct me if I'm wrong. Like I'm just saying specifically, what have we ever seen that it's actually orbiting the sun?
Well, I observed myself Mars. I'm getting some feedback here. I observed myself Mars orbiting the sun because I'm seeing it move, not only relative to the stars, but measuring the distance, measuring the size.
Mm-hmm.
So I have actual ranging data to it, right? So now the lateral motion is no longer simply an angular motion. We have uh, a known scale to that because I have the distance to it. So, in effect, I am watching it literally orbit the sun, literally measuring the distance using parallax. And from that, I know it's a certain number of, million miles away, and it's a certain size, and it's
Mm-hmm.
orbiting a central point, which is co located with the sun, roughly the solar system barycenter, if we want to be very exact. So, I have direct observational evidence, and I've seen it moving at a known distance, at a known speed, all agreeing with the orbit, but not just agreeing with the orbit. You can take it the other way. You can solve for the orbit using
Yeah,
those
like with
observations.
you can do like you and there's several, and I admire your work a lot, and I actually point to your work a lot. I point people to your channel because you have gone out of your way for a long time now, consistently and repeatedly going out in the morning before everybody's up, getting all your equipment ready and setting up, which they probably don't even really realize how much time that takes. And you've been filming in live streams. You've been filming the space station and an amazing shot with some amazing software that you've created. And I can't explain this to you guys why other people, and this is, you guys know this as well as I do. Why do people say that the space station is a U-2 plane? Because they're not interested in actually knowing what is up there. Would you agree? They're not paying attention. Reds is in Florida, right? Me and Reds, I'm in Minnesota, and I'm not positive about this, but I think that we could probably, at the same time, me and Reds could probably, it would probably be right on the horizon for me and probably right on the horizon for him looking the other way. But I think we could see the space station going in between us in the middle at the same time. And we could triangulate it, and we could figure out that it's about 250 miles in the sky. So I can't explain why people just say NASA's faking space. I can't explain that because I don't think they are at all.
But we want an explanation on why you think the Earth is flat, given all of these things that go against the notion that the Earth is flat.
Well, that's for one. I mean, and I know these arguments are so worn out, and I'm not trying to keep going with them. But the horizon, and actually, Red, you actually mentioned this, and you had a video when we debated, and you had a video of, I think it was some chess pieces possibly on top of a car, and you displayed how the horizon would appear to be straight, left, right, and then it would still appear to, drop off.
It's called compressed perspective. Yes.
Yes, but I think that clip that you showed, or the video you showed of those chess pieces, it doesn't really, you can't really have the ability with the camera to, get that 180-degree view or whatever. And
that's the thing. You've already missed the point. When you're super zoomed in, how many degrees left and right are you actually viewing? You're viewing a tiny sliver of the curve from left to right, but yet you're viewing 24 miles of the damn thing straight ahead.
Straight ahead, yeah.
That's why my Tampa Bay blink test shows what it shows.
Mm-hmm. And to me, though, even if you're not zoomed in, because I mean, like you're right. When you're zoomed in, looking at that 24 miles or whatever, you're looking at that ship going down the horizon, or your blink test, you're seeing maybe, not very far left to right in your view. But what I'm saying is, if you actually, take the camera out of the way and you're looking left and right by turning your head, you're seeing a very far distance, and that's like a straight line.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So we're again. I'm going to keep coming back to this question. So I'm going to be a broken record for this live stream, but you've accepted multiple times that the round Earth model and the model that we have that governs the solar system, or that describes the solar system, it all works. So given the fact that all of this shit is going for us, why do you still believe that the Earth is flat?
Well, one reason is because I don't think that the Earth is rotating.
Okay.
And I know that doesn't really say flat, but that does say, to me, the globe, it can't be a globe. It can't have day and night unless it's rotating.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, but you don't. Okay. Take a ball, put it on the table.
Yep.
Is it moving? No. Has it stopped being a ball? No. So why is this an argument? I mean, if you want to, I would actually, and I can't believe I'm saying this.
Model. Right? We're talking about a model.
If you were a geocentrist, I would much rather have that, because at least you know that the Earth is a sphere. Then we can move on to the sphere actually moving. But if that is your ultimate hang up,
how do you get day and night if the Earth was a sphere but it's not rotating?
Yeah, but if that is your ultimate hang up, you need not look any further than your own flat earther Bob, who measured it by accident by trying to disprove it. He put it up to the test, and then he was like, "Oh shit, there's motion here. Let's do a whole bunch of damage control after the fact with a ring laser gyro." The dude discovered the rotation of the Earth.
Well, and here's, I know it sounds goofy, but an apparatus like that, I mean, obviously we use it in high-tech equipment and jets that really need to know their orientation and fast too. So I'm not casting any kind of doubt on that drift that it picks up, or the 15 degrees or whatever that it's picking up. I have no answer for that, but I do know that we're setting it on the ground that, and like Reds, you've pointed out before, this is why I actually enjoy your videos and your point of view. And actually, I like the way that you put it across, because you're like, kind of stern, or whatever the word is you want to use.
An asshole. Asshole. The word you're looking for is asshole.
Yep. But what I'm saying is, I think that that's necessary to make people think. So I think that's one of the reasons why your channel has been successful, and why there's so many people that don't like Reds, right?
I'm just still trying to get an actual answer, though, because here's the thing. I know what my channel is. I know what I've done. I know I can be an asshole, and I know what Astronomy Live has done. He does great work, has a great telescope, and has a massive penis. We all know this. But the fact remains is that we still haven't gotten an answer to this question. If we have everything going for the globe and nothing going for flat, why would you believe in the fucking flat Earth? Because there's nothing there. The flat Earth is a DoorDash delivery boy delivering you nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Okay. Well, I've tried to point out a couple, and I'm not trying to drag on my sentences to hear my voice. What I'm trying to do is, I don't think that the Earth that we live on under our feet is in motion. Okay, it appears from, and you've brought up the speedometer. You're not going to guess how fast your car is going. You're going to look at the speedometer, because it's much more accurate than just guessing, right?
Yeah, but we did attach a speedometer to the Earth. It was the ring laser gyro that said, "Yo, this bitch be moving at 15 degrees per hour." So
yeah, and I don't have an answer, or that one that's something that I think about all the time, and I'm like, I really don't know if the Earth wasn't rotating. I don't know why I would pick that up. But
yeah, but if you don't know, why would you immediately jump to the Earth being flat?
Because I live on the Earth, and I know this sounds like kind of weird, but I live on the Earth, and I was given this body I live in, and I have these senses. And now an instrument, we have to use our senses to even read an instrument, right? So the senses that I have, I'm not saying they're more accurate than like a speedometer. My eyes looking at the road are not more accurate than a speedometer. But when we, if that's why I was kind of talking about, or that video with MC Toon, is observation part of science? It is. And we all observe the ground to be not moving. And that's, now listen, I don't want to I'm not trying to harp on that. What I'm saying is, if I lived up in the stars, or if I was actually on a star, or say I was on the moon, I think if I looked down on the Earth, that it would be rotating. Okay. So don't think that I'm trying to say that a rotating thing's wrong or anything. What I'm saying is that I live on the part that from where I live, it isn't rotating. And if I was in the sky on the moon, I would have to guess. I don't think there would be any way to say that it wouldn't be rotating.
We have
the place that I live is the part that's not rotating.
Flat Earthers constantly overly reduce humanity. What I mean by that is, you limit yourself to your senses, like your eyesight, or you can feel motion, the fluid in your ear that lets you know which way up is, that kind of thing. But humans have something else going for them, and that's that jelly blob thing between the ears called a brain. And when we realize that when we use that shit, we realize, oh, if we make tools, we can help ourselves out quite a bit. And so that's why we have speedometers. And we know that, because we know that our sense of speed is not always accurate. We know that our eyes aren't always the most precise. So that's why we have telescopes and microscopes, hell, even fucking glasses for our everyday lives. And we have made tools to help us better discern reality. And when we use these tools, reality itself conveys what it's saying through these instruments. And what Bob's ring laser gyro was saying is that the Earth, the motion of the Earth, has conveyed through that instrument to you, the observer, hey, I'm the Earth, and I'm rotating at 15 degrees per hour. So, with that being said, and given the fact that you said that these instruments have to be accurate, otherwise we would have aircraft falling out of the fucking sky all the time, which I agree with.
Yeah, we have precise equipment.
But yes, it is precise equipment. So why not trust the precise equipment? The Earth is rotating. Point blank. That's it. Dead. Done. Dusted.
Well, no, and I, like Reds, and is it Red or Reds? Like I don't want to call you like something wrong.
People call me both. I really don't care. But at the end of all my videos, I say my name is Red. This has been his rhetoric, and have a good night. So
yeah, that's true.
So
that's true. So Red.
I think my videos are self-explanatory in there, but still. Okay, so back to the question. These ring laser gyros are accurate, and reality conveys what it's doing through these instruments to you. It's saying, I'm the Earth. I'm rotating at 15 degrees per hour. So why not accept it?
Okay, so when 7.8 billion people, and I'm not trying to be weird, but when we all observe with our senses only, I'm not talking about our instruments, but with our senses, we all observe, we make an observation, I'll say, of what appears to be, to us, the ground not moving, or whatever you want to call it, being still, okay? Now, that would be an observation, and there's also something called an inference that we can, that we probably must add to any observation we make, because we can make observations that appear to be right, but we have knowledge about things, and you're kind of applying that knowledge. Like if I was to ask you, is the ground, like through your human perception, is the ground in motion or stationary? You would have to say that it appears to be stationary, right? It appears to be. I'm not saying that it is. It appears to be stationary. And the sky, the stars in the sky appear to be in motion, in a rotation, or actually I should say in a rotation in the north and the south, around a point in each north and south. So there's an inference, though, that like a lot of it would have to do with instruments like you're talking about. And a lot of those inferences would say, but we know that it's not stationary. And I think that could be a mistake as far as that's an assumption is what it is. Really, an inference is an assumption. We infer something that we don't observe. And actually, in this case, we're inferring the exact opposite of our observation. And
are you implying that measuring the rotation of the Earth with the gyroscope isn't an observation?
No, I definitely think that it is an observation, but it's not an observation that is made by only human perception. And I'm not trying to be one-sided. What I'm saying is,
but why would we limit ourselves? Why would we limit ourselves to only the accuracy and sensitivity of human perception? I mean, by that limitation, there's a lot of things I could never see because the telescope, for example, is a lot more sensitive and a lot higher resolution. Things like the details on the space station, right down to the solar panels, the radiators, the spacecraft attached to it. I can't see that by eye, but I can observe it through the telescope.
Especially you.
I can look in the eyepiece. I don't even need the camera. Let's say for a second that we don't trust cameras. I can look in the eyepiece, and I see the exact same details.
And it's purely optical. There's no electronics. You're looking at a mirror or you're looking
lenses and glass. That's all it is. This is glass and mirrors. Exactly.
Yep. And I have 8-inch Dobsonian reflector, and I have ETX 125 Amid. They're not like super telescopes or something, but they like you're saying, you can see the things in the sky with clarity.
So let me give you an example of an observation you can make. you could point your ETX 125 or you could point your Dobsonian at a geostationary satellite, and on the ETX you could shut the motor off altogether, and those satellites are going to stay there. They won't appear to move in the eyepiece. What's keeping them up there?
Of course, the flat earthers don't want to acknowledge these channels, but there's a channel I'm subscribed to. It's a small channel, but his name's Mel Gig. And I don't know if you know, he's just really good with his camera. And you can go to his channel and you can watch
let's try to keep the promotion and, dare I say, dick sucking down to a minimum. So just a question one more time. There are geostationary satellites that you can see through your telescope. You can shut the motor off and they will remain in place. So the question for you is, what is keeping them there?
I don't know what's keeping them there. I think that, again, if we were going to point if we point a telescope at something and we're not moving the telescope, whatever's there is right there.
Okay,
but if the Earth's rotating, it has to be moving fast.
Here's the thing. They're not just there. They will tend to move up slightly and down slightly because, you know, the orbit isn't, you know, perfect, but you can tell that it's an orbit. So if you can tell that just by looking at it, again, your motor's shut off, this is a geostationary orbit, and this is the kind of thing that is predicted with the models that we're putting forward.
Can I ask you how we know that it's an orbit?
Basically, let me ask you this. Do you have anything that... Do you have any explanation other than it's an orbit to explain what we're seeing?
Well, maybe I don't know everything, Reds, and I think you can maybe help me out to understand better what you mean by you can tell that the geostationary ones, because they move up and down. You were saying earlier they're not in perfect orbit, but how do we know that they're orbiting if basically they're just moving a little bit in the sky?
Let's assume for a second that we don't know that. Let's assume for a second we don't know that. That's actually the question right there. We have multiple possible explanations for what we're seeing. I'm going to put forward the explanation that these objects are in a geostationary orbit. What explanation could you put forward that would better explain the observation?
I'm not going to be so confident that I could better explain it than you, Rez. I think you have a lot more knowledge on that. But I will say that just to be silly, if there was a star in one spot in the sky, or not a star, but a geostationary satellite, if the Earth's rotating, then the satellite has to be moving, you know, with that. I don't know what the right words are, but it has to be moving the same as the rotating Earth. But what if the Earth's not rotating and it's in the sky? It could be. I'm not saying anything about balloons because I think that's ridiculous, the Satelloons thing. But I'm saying that couldn't it just be in one spot in the sky and just be staying there, like not in motion?
What would keep it there?
Actually, I have to bust myself. I just screwed up in my thinking because we launched those at a super fast rate of speed, and so
that's correct. They went up. They went up on rockets. That's correct.
Yep. So and here's the thing, guys. I'm not trying to be dishonest. I'm not trying to be one-sided. I'm not trying to say I know everything, but I'm just trying to point out things that I'm noticing that seem like, whoa, we could be looking at that in a different way.
Yeah, but you haven't told us what that different way is. In fact, I asked you explicitly for that different way. In what different way could we observe the geostationary satellites that will lead us to a different explanation of what is going on? What are you seeing that we aren't?
I think that I have no answer for you as far as geostationary satellites. I'm just being honest.
Okay, then that's all you have to say. You know, I don't know is a perfectly acceptable answer. So
I know that anything that goes into orbit, anything that goes into orbit and stays there, it has to be moving, at least to escape, or not necessarily to escape the Earth, but I should say to go into low Earth orbit. It moves very fast.
Okay,
and
but
we use fuel to get it there.
So you acknowledge that our explanation makes sense. It does explain it. You said that you don't have anything to counteract that, And
Yep.
again, we're just
My question.
racking up.
I did have a question about it though.
Okay, we'll get to your question in a moment,
Okay.
and this is why Astronomy Life brought up this point, because it's just another tally for the globe. We're racking up
Mm-hmm.
points consistently for the globe. The globe has so much going for it, and the flat Earth has nothing. So once again, what is it about the flat Earth that so appeals to you, given the fact that it offers you nothing?
Well, and I think we have to be a little bit specific. And I mean, if we're talking about the stars in the sky and we're talking about geostationary satellites, or we're talking about a specific thing, we're not even talking about flat Earth if we're talking about, something in the sky, right? And I'm not trying to say we're not, because it's on the same type of subject, but I'm not trying to rack up points for the flat Earth.
It's not.
I would say
It's not. It's not literally a competition. But what I'm trying to
yeah.
illustrate to you is that you have so much going for the globe. You have so much evidence that supports it. You have a model that makes accurate predictions that you can verify yourself. So, but you don't want to take you don't want to take it on board for some reason, and you're not giving me a really good answer as to why you're not taking it on board, given the fact that it has a lot of shit going for it.
Okay, so the solar system, or what we call space, or whatever, everything in the solar system, it's in a state of free fall, or yeah, free fall. So, what I guess the best way I would describe it, it's orbiting around something else.
Yeah,
It's
the
larger.
solar system's orbiting, or the planets in the solar system are going around the sun. Yes.
Yeah, and like when they went to the moon, they were doing zero-G experiments on the way to the moon. So they're in a state of free fall on the way there and on the way back. That's what an orbit is. An orbit is a state of free fall because it's orbiting around a different body. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't understand everything, but just what I believe is the story, or the idea is that when we launch a rocket, which you filmed very cool a lot of times, those are going really fast and they start going sideways. And again, now you're gonna kind of say that I'm racking up points for the globe, and what I'm trying to do is say that sideways velocity is only that zero vector. Do you know what I'm saying? That zero vector only exists because of the curvature of the Earth, correct?
I'm sensing a goalpost being moved here, just being honest with you.
No, I'm not. I'm not trying to do that. What I'm saying is, if we're on a flat Earth, right, and you launch a rocket up and you start going parallel with the surface, how do you get that zero vector if it's not falling around a curve? Okay, this is something that I've been trying to understand myself, but am I being clear, or am I?
You're saying a lot of words, but it's not actually pointing to anything, and nor does it seem to answer my question. Again, I see a lot of goalpost shifting. We're changing the subject constantly. We're not actually answering the question. And the big question that I was asking, that Astronomy Live was asking, and stuff like that. Well, with Astronomy Live, to be fair, he said, "I don't know," which is fine. It's okay not to know something. But given the fact that you did agree that the round Earth model has a lot more going for it, what again keeps drawing you back to the flat Earth? What about it appeals to you so much?
What was that? I'm sorry.
What about the flat Earth appeals to you so much if it literally offers you nothing?
Well, 7.8 billion people live on a world that, to them, where they live, it's not rotating.
Okay, but here's the thing: an argumentum ad populum fallacy is not an actual answer.
Well, it's an observation that everyone makes, isn't it?
Again, an argumentum ad populum fallacy is not an answer to my question. I'm only talking about one person, and that one person is you. Forget what other people say or think or whatever. I'm handing you the raw data. Predictions that turn out to be correct. the fact that you can make these observations yourself that confirm that the predictions are correct and therefore confirmed and therefore
But you have
correct,
to
blah
ignore
blah blah.
things
So
to
given
say that
all
they're
of this
correct.
being but all of this being brought to you, regardless of what other
Yep.
people think, what makes
Mhm.
you personally constantly keep coming back to the flat Earth?
Well, if the Earth was a globe, it has to rotate. And I do not think the Earth rotates. Not
Okay,
the one I
you
live
don't
on.
think that, but we have measurements to
I
show that it
observe it.
does.
I observe it still, and I observe the sky in motion,
But we have
turning.
instruments that show that the Earth is rotating.
And we have instruments that show that actually the Earth's not rotating, the sky's rotating.
Which
So there's
instruments?
conflicting
Wait,
instruments, right?
hang on. Which instruments show that the Earth isn't rotating?
Your Nikon P1000 can do it with, if you put it on that Star Trails setting that it has, and you set your camera in one spot. And I think I'm not trying to like
Remember what I
patronize
said?
the idea.
Remember this. Remember this, guys. The Nikon P1000 is not, I repeat, is not a gyroscope. It's a camera
it's a
with just a
camera.
really, really big lens. It's not a gyroscope.
Yeah, and so when we set that really big lens, or let's take your iPhone. It doesn't matter what kind of camera. Take your iPhone and do a long exposure just in 1 minute of the stars. You're not going to see a single point of light. You're going to see the stars literally moving in that long exposure. You're going to see a line. You're not going to see a dot or a point of light.
But eftupworld, this is why I brought up the geostationary satellite argument. Let's say your long exposure picks up. You happen to be pointing at the geostationary band, and you see a bunch of geostationary satellites. Those are going to look like points.
Yeah, they're not in motion as far as like if I'm just saying if the camera is.
But that would. But
okay.
My whole point is the fact that they're up there constantly without moving implies actually we are in motion with them. They are in motion with us. They are moving at the same rotational rate as the Earth. They're moving with an orbit period of once a day. So that's why they appear to be stationary. If Earth weren't moving, if Earth were not rotating, they should be falling to Earth. And so
I understand.
We'd reach Earth very quickly.
If there's if the physics are the same in the sky.
But your whole point was that if you do a long exposure, you'll see the stars in motion, which, if you didn't know any better, would lead you to believe that the stars are moving, not us. But I'm telling you, there are things up there that wouldn't appear to move.
Yeah. Yep.
And that implies, because we can measure their distance. Again, we can do parallax measurements. You can be there in Minnesota. I can be here in Florida.
And I know you guys
can
have
each point
done
our
that.
telescopes to the same. And I'm just saying, you and I could do it. Yep. We could point our scopes to the same geostationary satellites, see the same general pattern, but with totally different background stars because they're in, they're at a certain distance from Earth, where the parallax between you in Minnesota and me in Florida is going to be significant and easily measurable. So we can measure the distance, the altitude of those satellites. We can see that they appear to be staying roughly in the same spot over the course of the night, over the course of multiple nights. So the more reasonable conclusion here that requires fewer assumptions is that they are actually orbiting at the same rotational rate as the Earth, because that would allow them to stay in orbit without falling to Earth. Otherwise, we have to come up with some magical explanation for why they're not falling to Earth.
No, and you make a good point, and I would say that there's one part of that would have to be something that it's probably an assumption that the physics of where those geostationary satellites are as we expect, and I'm not saying they're not, because I don't want you guys to think that I'm a know-it-all or something, but I do, like, if we take a camera and we do this, we point it up there, we're going to see the stars, the fixed stars, I'll call them, doing their motion. We're going to see planets doing a similar motion, but with like slightly different with retrograde motion, and then we'll see like you're saying, the geostationary satellites basically in one spot. Oh, go ahead, Reds.
Sorry, no, that was me. I'm
sorry.
So I'm just saying, you seem to be making these arguments. I'm trying to bring it back to your daily experience, right?
Yep.
And I'm telling you, like, the daily experience of an amateur astronomer doing satellite tracking, it's very it is almost a daily experience. Like when I'm doing satellite tracking, if I have extra time, I'll point at some geostationary satellites and just shut off the telescope for fun, because I got to tear down the telescope anyway, and it's cool to see them just sitting there, not moving. Like, this is
just
a
out of
common
curiosity,
experience.
have you done that? Like, like just as you're shutting it down or whatever, just keep do a long exposure or whatever. Do they seem to like have a repeatable type of slight motion in there? Or I'm just curious because I don't know. I've never actually filmed one.
So in the time it takes me to tear down and really get ready to shut down the camera, typically I won't notice any motion.
Okay.
But especially for there are some exceptions. One are geostationary satellites that aren't actually quite geostationary because they're in graveyard orbits that are slightly higher. You will see them drift over a few minutes at a time. Geosynchronous satellites are even crazier because they can draw out an figure 8 pattern over the ground, and so you do see that quite noticeably. SDO, Solar Dynamics Observatory, perfect example of that. I've measured its orbit myself multiple times and used it to make useful predictions, one of which even contradicted NASA's prediction, and I was right. So
I believe that you were right. I think you know what you're talking about. Like
it was nitpicking, to say the least, but they had predictions for the start and end of eclipse season for SDO.
And you perfected that a little bit
because they were because they were not accounting for the atmosphere of the Earth. So, sorry, my point is just that this is part of my daily experience, and the predictions come true. My predictions come true. Even when NASA's saying something else, I can know it for a fact that, hey, SDO eclipse season is going to last one day longer than they said because they didn't account for the atmospheric thickness of Earth. I did, and my math was right. And even without looking at the math, just in perceiving it, I can see these satellites aren't moving. So I either have to, as you said, come up with some new physics to explain it that is special for those satellites for some reason and not experienced here on Earth, which I'm sorry, but that's special pleading. Or I can accept that the evidence points to the Earth being round and rotating, and that's why those satellites can remain stationary. So why wouldn't I go with the simpler explanation here? Why would I assume there must be new physics that allow for this when that's not necessary? It's unnecessary to explain that phenomenon.
Well, and again, I'm not here to like argue as if I know everything, but I, as Rez is probably getting frustrated by now by me not answering directly his question, I'm trying to, and what I'm saying is I live in a world that above it, I mean, I can put my camera out and like you're saying, I can see the motion of the stars. I can see the sky turning.
This is what I was going to say last time, is that Astronomy Live was able to make these observations, make these predictions. These predictions were based on the model that we're telling you is actually the case. Why would you constantly go back to the flat Earth when the flat Earth offers you nothing even close to what Astronomy Live was able to do with his model?
Well, I don't necessarily think that the flat Earth is that there's all these things that are known. Is what I'm saying is, there's a great possibility that all the measurements and all the predictions and things that you guys are making. Well, actually, it's not even a possibility. I think if you see the same screen I'm seeing, you'll see my
Hang on,
whatever.
hold that thought. We're reconnecting real quick. Let me just make sure that we didn't completely lose the fucking stream. And it looks like we are back in biz. Okay, so that was fucking great. I guess Honda Civic must have hit a power line or something. I don't fucking know. Anyway, I'm gonna try this one more time. But Joe, you're not answering the question. You've gone to what other people think, or I don't have an explanation
I haven't gone to what other people
this.
think. I've gone to observations that you yourself make, Rex.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This is the kind of thing I'm trying to tell you. These observations is not just observations that we can make. Anyone can do this, including you. So if you have access to this and you agree that these models work, why not trust the model that, again, requires the fewest amount of assumptions and requires the least amount of special pleading, that kind of thing. Why would you constantly go back to flat Earth, which again offers you nothing? There is nothing.
Let's expand from the flat Earth thing for just a second, because you keep going back to that, and I understand that's kind of the whole conversation we're having, but the example I was just trying
to be frank, but okay.
Well, if you look at my little icon there, I think you see like a moon that's like half lit, right? And I've mentioned this, and I'm not saying that this is a way we should think, but if we look at that the moon, it appears to be spherical. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, I'm just saying, looking at it, it looks like it's a sphere in shape.
Yeah.
And it may be, it may not be, whatever. But what I'm saying is that the screen you're looking at it on is like, it has the ability to appear to be 3D or whatever. Not 3D, but
so
it gives you the idea.
Hologram?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to go to the moon. I was using it for an example. What I'm trying to say is we can look at, like through the Astronomy Live's telescope, we can see like, and you guys can even measure it, what appears to be a sphere, and it's rotating, and it has moons going around it, whatever we're looking at, or a ring going around it like Saturn, and we can see that it appears to be doing something. But if we're like, there's another way to look at it and say, well, that generally, if we're looking at those details on a screen that's flat, then that means our perception has the ability to make something look 3D that's not. Now, I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying the screen that we're actually looking at is right.
But the question is, again, wow, that was a lot of feedback. Why would you assume that, though?
Well, the sky above my house, the stars in it, they're moving, and I know you know that. Whether it's the Earth turning or rotating, I should say, or and the stars are kind of where they're at, and the Earth's rotating, so we see what we see. That's an inference. It like to look at the observations we make and to literally infer the opposite. I have a problem with that, and I'm not saying I have all the answers or whatever. I'm just saying that the surface of water, the idea of a wave is, you push down on the water somewhere with wind or however, and it goes up somewhere else, and it displaces. Part of it goes up, part of it goes down, and that's what a wave is.
Okay, let's try this again. Why would you assume that the sky acts like a giant TV screen?
Well, I'm not assuming that.
No, you are. You're saying that, because my screen can make objects look 3D, the sky could operate in the same way. Okay, fine, but why would you assume that that's the case when there's no evidence that's actually working as such, considering we've actually sent probes to these fucking things?
No, and I'm not trying.
Not only that, here's the thing. The screen thing wouldn't work when doing parallax measurements. Parallax measurements show that these are, in fact, three-dimensional objects at different distances. So, for example, we do parallax measurements of Mars. We're not going to get the same result for Jupiter, and we're not going to get the same result for Saturn. And so we're now going to have to deal with multiple TV screens at different distances, which means we're looking through other screens and screens through other screens. This is a lot of work to make this, not quite work in your head. And I'm wondering, why are you putting in this much effort instead of accepting what I'm now going to assert is the obvious?
Well, because there's problems that you're not acknowledging about, quote unquote, the obvious.
What
am I not acknowledging? Is that the Earth is beneath my feet, isn't moving. And if we get a gyroscope to tell me I'm wrong,
acknowledge this. I did acknowledge that the ground beneath your feet isn't moving relative to you, because you have a 1-to-1 speed ratio with the ground. The ground isn't moving beneath my feet.
That's the inference part.
Here's the thing. The ground isn't moving beneath my feet when I'm on a jet traveling 500 miles an hour towards wherever the fuck.
But you just said it was traveling 500 miles an hour. you're saying your perception inside of the jet is that the jet itself, whether it's moving or not, your eyes and your ears and your senses may not be able to tell.
Yeah, well, guess what? You want to know what would tell? The instruments that are on the fucking dashboard. And so we use those same exact instruments, which you already said were accurate, which determine that the Earth is rotating. So what's the problem here?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Again, the instruments which you said were accurate. These are the same instruments that keep that plane operating smoothly. Why would you not? Why would you trust them when it comes to buying a ticket to Southwest Airlines, where you can get dog shit customer service and make it to your destination 2 hours late, but you won't trust that same exact instrument when you measure the rotation of the Earth? Why would you trust it in one aspect, which your life is literally in its hands, and you won't trust it in this aspect, which is the rotation of the Earth?
It's being used in a much different way, I think.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Well, it's determining orientation. That is its use.
If you're setting it on something that's not moving in order to read it.
No, that's an assumption. The whole point of placing it down is to find out if it's moving or not, and the green laser gyro clearly shows that it is.
Okay, you brought up in our debate the last time, you brought up another example of what I would call, I don't call globe proof, but whatever the right words are, an idea that would lead us to think that the Earth is rotating. And that was a scale. If we were to weigh something near the North Pole, and then we were to weigh that same thing on the same scale, like a weight that we knew was exact certain weight, and we were to use the same scale down at the equator, that it's going to weigh slightly less.
0.3%, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and it's consistent though, right? So what I'm saying is that's a good point that you made. The thing that's weird, and when I think about that, is if you're in the north, your scale is, I'm saying on a globe, if you're by the North Pole, your scales doesn't have the same physics being applied to it as the scale does at the equator, where it would be a different, what is that called, like linear velocity or whatever. I don't know what the right words are.
We know that they're not the same. That's the point. Since they're not the same, that indicates something. Because if we put the ring laser gyro and it shows that the orientation has not been the same by 15 degrees every hour, that indicates something. When we look at geostationary satellites and the fact that they're not careening towards Earth, and yet they're staying in the same part of the sky relative to you, that indicates something. All of this stuff indicates something, and why you constantly go back to the flat Earth that indicates nothing is astonishing to me.
I couldn't agree with that. It indicates nothing. I mean, if you look at the world you live in without inferring a lot of these things that I'm saying you're I guess that's the only word I really know for that. You're adding like prior knowledge or additional knowledge that you know from other things to a subject, and it's actually, this is why I don't think that the globe is correct, and your model works and all that. I'm not saying.
Let's take a pause for a second.
Okay.
Scott Manley, can you please do me a favor and leave? This is well beneath you. You are too good for this channel. You are too good for this content. You don't need to waste your time with this. You don't need to waste your time with me. You are just too perfect and too amazing for little old me and little old whatever the fuck this is. This is beneath you. I love your work. I would hate to see you get even remotely tarnished by whatever the fuck is going on right now. So keep doing what you're doing. I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much. Thanks for featuring my work on your channel multiple times. But once again, this content is well beneath you, like super beneath you, like
Fly
wow.
safe though.
We're scraping the bottom of the barrel so hard we're getting splinters, okay? So, but moving on. Why? Okay, let me just ask the question point blank. Do you believe in the flat Earth because of emotion? Do you believe in the flat Earth because of the Bible or something along those lines?
I'll be honest. I believe that the Bible has a great, uh, that is a great part of why I have looked at some of these things differently. Um, and again, I'm not saying that I'm right in everything, but the Bible, it does describe, it says straight up that the earth is, what does it say? The world is established that it be not moved. And there's a lot of verses that have the idea that earth is not rotating. And when I actually pay attention, it appears to be,
Is the Bible infallible?
No, it's just a book with words in it.
Okay, if it's just a book with words in it, and those words are describing something that literally does not comport with reality, why should what it say matter at all?
So are you saying that you observe the earth? I'm saying you, Reds, I'm not talking about your equipment or something, but if we make an observation of something in reality, in nature that we live in, we make an observation, can we be calling ourselves, or can we be saying that we're actually doing science to throw out that observation for an inference that literally is our inference? We're inferring the opposite of our observation. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not saying that I know everything or that the earth is completely flat, because we all know there's mountains.
I said this in my last video. If you use the wrong tool for the job, the quality of your output is going to suffer. You're going to make the mistake of thinking that one model actually comports with reality when in fact it didn't, because you used the wrong tool in the first place. When we use the proper tools for the job, like for example, if I was using just my senses, germ theory wouldn't be a thing because I can't see germs, therefore they don't exist. But yet with a microscope, oh look, there's a bunch of these little fuckers here. Looks like my perception was not the best tool to use when I erroneously stated that germs weren't a thing.
I'm not going to say that I would ever say that germs weren't a thing because I couldn't see them. I think that would be...
but that's what you're saying. You're saying, hey, let's go ahead and ignore all this equipment. Let's just use our eyes and our senses. Things that are completely insufficient for making this kind of determination. Let's make a determination anyway. That's backwards.
Okay, so again, the Earth that we observe I'm talking specifically with our human body. Okay,
yeah, but our human body is insufficient.
No, listen, Rez, we've already discussed, and I've already acknowledged that we have speedometers in our cars that are much more accurate than us just kind of taking a wild guess at how fast we're moving. Okay, they're accurate.
Fuck. Okay, the meeting has ended, so I'm going to have to send another link to continue on this shit show. Yippee. Great. Thanks, Google. Thanks for screwing me over like that. Let's go ahead and get another call going. I apologize. You know what? Fuck that. It's not me who should be apologizing. It's Google who should be apologizing. Oh yeah, let's go ahead and put a limit on it. Thanks. I appreciate it. Dicks. Okay, there's a new call. Sending it right now to his... Yeah, I know. Sending the new link right now. Okay. Alright, Astronomy Live and eftupworld have the new link. Yippee. That was a shitty thing to do. StreamYard doesn't have time limits. Yeah, I gotta get better at this. Okay, Astronomy Live. So while we're waiting for eftupworld to come back into the call, am I making sense here, or is he just constantly avoiding my questions?
No, you are. I do think that there's probably something. I mean, there's obviously something deeper motivating the belief system here if we're to take him at face value on that belief system. It's like comparing a MIMS gyroscope to a laser, a fiber optic or a laser gyroscope, and saying, well, the MIMS gyroscope says the Earth's either randomly moving or not rotating at all because its accuracy is terrible, and it's got a drift of 90 degrees an hour or something, and ignoring the result from the more accurate ring laser gyroscope because he thinks that's just an inference instead of an observation. And this is why I tried to go back to talk about the telescope for a second, because there we can make an observation with just our eyes through glass, no room for trickery, and we can see geostationary satellites sitting there. What's the explanation for it? He has no explanation for it.
And he just admitted that too.
Yeah. So the reasonable conclusion to draw from that, the inference that is formed by the observations, is that the satellites are orbiting the Earth at the same rate that the Earth is rotating.
Yeah. So effed up world or Joe or whatever.
I lost you guys for a moment. Sorry.
No, that was Google messing up, not you. So
okay.
When you look at what Astronomy Live was saying, given the geostationary telescopes, given what we were saying with the rotation of the Earth, all of these things have something in common. We used tools to get these answers. But yet you're saying, let's ignore the tools. Let's only use what is insufficient for the job to make our conclusion. Why
Can
would
I make
you
a correction
do that, though?
to that? Can I make a correction to what your statement was there?
Sure.
I don't want us to ignore the tools, the accurate equipment. I don't want us to ignore the speedometer in the car. But I do want to just say that I get troubled by the speedometer in the car. If the speedometer in the car were to tell me that I wasn't moving, but I knew I was moving with my body senses, I don't know when we got cut short.
You're not gonna. But here's the thing: your body senses are not going. 15 degrees per hour is slow, like really slow. Yeah. So you're saying that your body's going to be that sensitive? No, it isn't. It just
I'm
isn't.
using it for an example. As far as I don't think that if we have, did you hear me when I was saying if I was in the car moving 45, or if I said I think we're going about 45 miles an hour, and I'm looking, gauging it my best, and if Reds said, look at the speedometer, we're not moving at all, I would actually have to say maybe that speedometer is broken. If I knew we were moving so fast that if I jumped out of the car, it would probably, I'd probably break bones and go scraping across the asphalt.
But that's why we have repeats of these observations. So you don't just do it once and call it a day. You constantly challenge the model. And here's the thing: the model has been challenged repeatedly with multiple different gyroscopes from multiple different manufacturers. I'm dead sure of this. And all of it converges on the same answer.
Okay, but what if our understanding of what the gyroscope is measuring is wrong? And I'm not saying it is. I'm saying that if going back to my car moving 45 mile an hour thing, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. I'm just saying if the car's moving and if I'm driving from Minnesota to Wisconsin, and I started in Minnesota and I ended up in Wisconsin, there's a way to know, that car, that I was moving in that car. Now, the speedometer said 0 the whole way.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If these gyroscopes didn't work, then the planes that depend on them would be in a lot of trouble. And the fact that they aren't should indicate something. It should indicate hey, listen, I'm able to use this equipment to achieve this job, which you agreed to buy a ticket for, and I can get you to your destination safely. Mm-hmm. That is the case. Then we take that same piece of equipment, the exact same one, and
you put it somewhere that's not moving.
No, we put on something that we want to measure the movement of. Whether it's there or not remains to be seen. But then we make the measurement. Oh, look at that! It's 15 degrees per hour. Okay,
so we put it on the ground, and you're right when you say it. I mean, here for you guys, just for you guys. Bob, could you? Yeah, it measures 15 degrees per hour. Thanks, Bob. Right? Okay. So that was for fun. If that 15 degrees per hour is when Bob put it on the ground, right? Well, what about when he puts it up on his countertop? Is he going to measure the same thing? Of course. He measure the same thing. What I'm saying is that is his countertop moving? It must be moving with the ground because it's the same measurement. Oh. But what I'm trying to say is that the person which would be Bob in this situation, he's making a reading of his instrument, and he's saying this instrument is picking up this 15 degrees per hour, right? But everyone that's standing around Bob or whatever, they're looking at it, they're going, okay, we can't sense that. We're actually observing what appears to be still. How do we say the opposite of what we're actually observing is happening? Like when you're in the car and you're moving 45 miles an hour, I don't say that you're moving zero. But if the car says 45 miles an hour, you're probably moving 45 miles an hour. But if we're not even in the car and the car's parked in the parking lot and the speedometer is broken and it's, for some reason, it's stuck at 45, would it be, just be honest here, would it be irresponsible for me to check the speedometer and say, I think the speedometer could be broken? I would have to, right?
I am so lost as to
okay,
what point you're trying to make maybe? Here, because okay, wow, okay, that just fucked with my head because I have no idea where you're going with this.
What I'm saying is that if an instrument tells us the literal opposite of what we're observing, don't you think it would be irresponsible to just say, well, we know the instrument's right and I'm wrong?
This is why we do this test multiple times with multiple different pieces of equipment. So, for example, you have a car, you have a broken speedometer. There's two things I can think of that will immediately check that right off the top of my head. Car. Number one, I could drive right next to you at the same speed and see what my speedometer says, or we can use GPS and see what that does, or we can use multiple GPS units, one from Garmin, one from my phone, or wherever the fuck. We can.
So how do we do it with the Earth?
We can do multiple things to verify. We can repeatedly put the claim to the test, but by you pointing to these special cases in which it might be wrong, it could be wrong, or whatever, when we actually do the work and we put these claims to the test, when we put them all to the test, it always converges on the same answer. And we're talking about different gyroscopes from multiple different manufacturers. They all converge on the same answer, and this is the same exact gyroscope that got you to your destination safely after you overpaid for a ticket and had shitty customer service.
I like that because
you have everything you need to be really, really confident that this is actually giving you the correct results. Where you look at the flat Earth, you have nothing, so you have no confidence at all because you have a sample size of 0 because it hasn't produced anything that's actually worth a damn. So
why are you able to ignore and literally reject the observation you make for the opposite? That your inference disagrees, it opposes your observation.
For the same exact reason, I reject my eyes when making it the sole determining factor for germ theory. For the same exact reason. I know for a fact, because I don't just have my senses, I also have a brain and this thing called logic. And via the brain and via the logic, I know that my senses have limitations. They're not perfect. Yes. My eyes can't see the ultra small. I can't feel the ultra slow, like 15 degrees per hour. You spin my bed at 15 degrees per hour, I'm going to sleep soundly through the night. It's not going to disturb me. And then I'm going to wake up and be like, oh, what the fuck happened? It was completely unaware. Unaware. And let me just be very, very blunt here. Our senses are shit. Our senses can also be fucked with
they can
by
be the opposite
alcohol
of what.
and drugs or just standing up too fast. Literally standing up too fast can throw our senses at whack. But guess what?
Yeah.
That ring laser gyro doesn't give a damn about alcohol or drugs or standing up too fast.
Mm-hmm. So the point I would make, and we're kind of going on and on with the same topic, but
yeah, but you're not answering the question. That's why we're going on and on. A simple.
Here's the answer to the question. You make an observation with your body that the only place you perceive things from, you still have to perceive the measurement on the gyroscope from your body with your eyes. What if your eyes? I'm not saying this is what it is or that I think this. You are perceiving that digital readout with your eyes. So your senses are definitely involved in perceiving anything because that's all we have. Like you're saying, you have your eyes, your ears.
Should I not trust my senses when reaching the gauge on the screen?
No, I'm not saying that you would read it wrong or that your senses are wrong in that case. And that's not where I was going. What I'm saying is you make an observation of, you put your camera outside, you see the stars in motion. You see them in a circular motion in the sky. And you didn't have to move your camera, okay? Now that's looking from the Earth where we live. If you ignore your senses in order to, it's just an inference is what it is. An observation, like this isn't science, Fred. An observation that we make should not be traded for an inference, an idea, an assumption that disagrees and opposes our observation.
What assumption has been made in measuring the distance, or not the distance, the rotation of the Earth? What assumption has been made?
That the Earth's rotating.
No, that was a measurement. That's not an assumption.
Okay, so what about your observation? You're just saying that even though you live in a world where the ground never really appears to be rotating,
because I have a 1-to-1 speed ratio with the ground, that doesn't mean that the Earth isn't rotating.
That's an inference. That's called an inference. You're inferring that. You're getting that from other knowledge, and it actually opposes the what your body perceives in this world.
And did we not just accept the fact that our bodies are insufficient for making these really profound discoveries? The fact is that if I just use my body to decipher germ theory, I would fuck it up so bad.
Yeah, and that seems to be not quite a fair. I'm not saying that germs don't exist, am I?
Our bodies have limitations, and you're saying let's just ignore the fact that they have limitations and trust them anyway, and hope for the best.
I want to point out a comment from Corey Caserta in the chat, because I think it's really poignant here, and Scott Manley of all people would know this quite well, as he's learning to be a pilot right now. Pilots ignore senses all the time, all depending on instruments. That's why they're still alive. The dead ones relied on their senses and ignored their instruments.
True.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean that killed JFK Jr. Right? He I believe his crash happened because he was essentially flying in near IFR conditions, but he was VFR licensed. He didn't have IFR ratings, and so the thought is he became disoriented and crashed because he relied on his senses. It happens all the time.
Yeah,
and so our senses, particularly when it comes to orientation, are not reliable and definitely not nearly as sensitive as instruments on a plane. Mm-hmm. So you need to rely on instruments just to stay alive as a pilot, especially in conditions where your senses can become disoriented. So why wouldn't we trust that?
I'm not saying we shouldn't trust that. Like, I agree with you guys 100%, and acknowledge this and give me the credit that, I'm not trying to be like the guy that says everything you say is wrong. That's not what I'm here for. What I'm pointing out, I guess, is that, okay, our senses, yes, we can get disoriented. I think Red said it best and so clearly when we were in a debate like a year ago. He said, okay, I'm going to trust my speedometer when I want to know how fast I'm going. I'm not going to just trust my senses, my human perception and senses for that, because the speedometer is much more accurate. So, and the reason why I keep bringing that up is because I'm giving Red credit for bringing up a very good point, and one that made the point he was trying to make, and in a good way. But I'm saying that we live in this world. And the world we live in presents itself to us in a certain way. And one small factor of that is that the ground is still.
Perception isn't perfect, though.
No, I know, but
let me just
okay.
repeat this with another one of these comments. Obi-Wan, I am a pilot. In training, they put a hood over you and force you to look at the instruments. And trust me, you start to sense, in quotes, you are tilting, but you aren't.
And you really wouldn't really know. And I agree. Like, that's a good point. I'm not saying that it is. That's
you're
a very
getting
good point.
what we're trying to say to you is that you're getting example after example after example of how our senses are not the best tool for the job. And what did I say in my last video? When you use the wrong tool for the job, the quality of your output is going to suffer.
Yeah. So maybe what we're almost talking about is that you're saying that I'm giving maybe too much credence or whatever to the perceptions that I have as a human being.
That's what we've been saying to you for almost the last hour. Yes.
And I agree that, like, I'm in this conversation, I am actually doing that. I'm giving credit to my senses, but there's a reason why I'm doing that.
You're not giving credit to your senses. You're giving too much credit to your senses. See, I will trust my senses for certain things, but I won't trust it for all things, like deciphering germ theory or figuring out if the Earth is rotating, because we have tools that can do a far better job than whatever the hell I could do. So the question again is, why would we discard these really useful instruments for our senses, which are, again, insufficient?
Well, are your senses telling you the opposite of what your instruments are telling you?
No.
So your senses tell you you're not rotating.
Maybe I'm just unclear. What exactly do you mean by telling me the opposite? Let me just make sure I understand your question.
Okay. In the world we live in, we observe the ground being, solid beneath us and stable. An earthquake is called an earthquake because that's when the earth actually does move. And now, don't go to the argument or whatever of we're not going to feel motion if we're not accelerating or decelerating. That's not what I'm talking about. Because if we're on the earth, that's a globe and it's rotating, we're not going to know. I mean, the sky would be what would tell us. So I understand that. But when we live on the earth and we observe it to be solid under our feet, our instruments tell us, and I'll use the gyroscope. That tells us that it's in motion. That's the literal opposite of our observation.
No, it's not the literal opposite of our observation. Our observation would include...
Motion or not motion?
No, our observation would include the instruments that you're choosing to ignore because, in my opinion, they present to you a very inconvenient fact that you just don't want to accept. Yes, if I were to go just by my senses, then yes, it feels like I'm sitting perfectly still. Absolutely, I'll give that to you. But what we also say at the exact same time is that our senses aren't perfect. They are not up to the task of this particular job. They just will not work. They won't give us accurate results. I wouldn't be able to measure if it's 15 degrees of rotation, 2 degrees of rotation, 0 degrees of rotation. I wouldn't know. So we use tools that help us.
And everything.
We use tools sufficient for the job to dial that shit in. So why would you again default to something that is insufficient for the job? That's like saying, okay, let me ask you this, Joe. What would you use to cut your grass? Would you use scissors or would you use a John Deere lawnmower?
Well, I think the right answer would be a John Deere lawnmower.
All right, hang on. Why would you use a John Deere lawnmower if not a pair of scissors? The pair of scissors can also cut your grass.
A pair of scissors might be more accurate, but a John Deere lawnmower would be more realistic and faster.
I would disagree that it's more accurate, but okay. But you would use the John Deere tractor because it is better equipped to handle that task, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So we have no problem using the John Deere lawnmower over the pair of scissors. Well, I got news for you. The ring laser gyro is the John Deere lawnmower in this analogy.
Okay.
So why would you not
That's a
use the ring
horrible
laser
analogy,
gyro?
in my
Why
opinion.
why are you choosing the pair of scissors over the lawnmower in this analogy? Why are you choosing your senses over the ring laser gyro, given the fact that the ring laser gyro is vastly more accurate?
Okay. What about your eyes when you look up at the sky?
No.
and
Just
you see
answer
it
my
rotating?
question directly.
I'm trying to.
No.
Okay,
I
well,
don't
I
want
guess
you to
that's
answer my
what you're-
question with
okay.
another question or a deflection or anything like that. We've been running
Okay.
around in circles for a very
You're
long
saying
time
why
now.
would I choose the scissors when the lawnmower is for the job, right?
Yeah, in that analogy. So,
Okay.
but don't get lost in the analogy. It's just to illustrate the point that
Yeah.
you're purposefully choosing the worst tool for the job. Why?
Because it's the only tool that I have. Every other tool that I have is something I made that I think measures something that I think it's measuring.
So it's not
But
the
it
only
goes
tool you
against
have.
all these other things that I observe. Like the sky's rotating in a circle, and it's in motion.
What do you
That's an
wait a minute,
observation
wait a
that I
minute.
made.
What do you mean it's the only tool you have? So you mean that the observation that other people have made are simply insufficient because you haven't done it yourself?
No. I mean, my body, any one of us, our perception as a human being, we perceive one thing, and then we can have like we perceive ourselves moving in a car. We don't know how fast we're going until we look at the speedometer. Okay, so we can look at the speedometer, but like I'm saying, if the speedometer tells us the opposite of what we know is happening with our human perception, there's something wrong.
Let me.
Like,
But you're trusting in that situation. You have a reasonable assumption in that situation that your body would provide you cues that tell you that the vehicle is moving at a speed you can detect, and the speedometer isn't detecting that speed, right? Your vision,
Yeah.
your visual cues, and if you're going around a turn, maybe your vestibular
Or if you're
system.
moving at all,
But if you're moving in a straight,
you're not.
but if you're moving in a straight line and you got a hood over your head and you're not hitting any bumps, you're not going to feel it anyway. But
True.
my point is, let's say that's not the case, and let's say you can feel the car's motion. Let's say you're, I don't know, on the Nuremberg ring and you're making a constant turn, and you can feel that on top of whatever you're seeing. You know that your vestibular system, at least you think you know, your vestibular system is more trustworthy than the speedometer, because the vestibular system would be able to measure that motion, and you are measuring that motion. You can't trust that your vestibular system is sensitive enough to detect Earth's rotation at 50 degrees an hour. I'm sorry, but your vestibular system is not that good. It's not that accurate. And so you can't make that assumption. It's not that the ring laser gyroscope is contradicting or contradictory to what your vestibular system is telling you, because your vestibular system is inconclusive at that rotation rate. You can sit in a chair that's on a motor programmed to turn you at 15 degrees an hour, and you won't feel it. Over time, over hours of time, you'll see everything moving around you, but is the room rotating around you, or are you rotating in the center of the room?
And that's the question at hand here, really, is the sky rotating or is the Earth rotating?
Now I put your ring laser gyroscope in your hands as you're sitting in that chair, and the ring laser is telling you you're the one moving. Why would you not trust that simply because your vestibular system tells you you're not moving?
Well, and there's much more. The sky is in motion, and so
the room appears to be in motion.
What's that?
In my example, the room appears to be in motion. You're sitting in a chair programmed to turn at 15 degrees an hour. If you watch it long enough, you'll notice the room appears to be turning very slowly. Well, is the room turning, or are you turning? Put a ring laser gyroscope in your lap. It appears that you are moving, because that's what the ring laser gyroscope is telling you. Why would you reject that observation?
Because no, that you're making a good point, and like I don't want to just answer with words that coming off the top of my head that don't mean anything. So I'm not going to like give you words that aren't worth at least listening to. If that was the case, if I had a ring laser gyroscope, in my lap, and I would have to weigh that out. But I guess it's the opposite. Okay, we make an observation of the sky rotating and the ground not moving. And for me to say, well, I must be wrong, and the ground is actually moving.
We're not saying for you to no, hang on. See, that's a straw man. We're not saying you to automatically assume that you are wrong in that case. What we're saying is that it's best to double check, and we have tools that can allow you to double check that. And when we do double check it, and then we double check it again.
Your observation.
Yeah, but when we double check it, and then we double check it again and again and again and over and over and over with increasingly more sensitive and high-tech tools that we have at our disposal now because we're smart motherfuckers, we come to the conclusion that, oh, it's the Earth that's rotating.
But I'm telling you that the sky's rotating.
And you would be wrong. And you would be wrong.
Doing a long, we can ask Astronomy Live, and you guys I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're wrong or something. What I'm saying is, if you have sidereal motors in your telescope and you're going to do a long exposure shot on your equatorial mount, do you need to move that telescope in order to keep the same area of the sky in view? Of course you do. Those motors one motor needs to be turning. It needs to be turning that telescope at what, 15 degrees per hour?
Having a motor to compensate for the rotation of the Earth doesn't disprove the rotation of the Earth, though.
You can't say that it's compensating for something. We're talking about actual observations, and I'm not trying to correct you or something. What I'm trying to say is that I do have a point when I'm saying that when we spend a bunch of money on a telescope that has very precise way of moving itself to follow the motion of the stars in the sky, because they literally come up in the east and they go over your head and they set in the west. So they are in motion.
Yeah, and some of those telescopes only rotate on one axis. They're called EQ mounts, which also disproves the flat Earth. But one thing, yes, it does actually. And I have okay, let's not jump topics here.
Okay,
the point is that telescopes, they're not gyroscopes. Gyroscopes are different. We use gyroscopes, and when we use them, they detected a drift of 15 degrees per hour. So let me just ask you this.
Same thing with...
why are they detecting that drift? Why?
Probably the same reason why our telescopes are following the sky at that. What I'm saying is, you can argue one way or the other, and they almost both work.
No, they don't.
Okay, so then what are the sidereal motors for?
The sidereal motors are for compensation. Compensating for the rotation of the Earth does not disprove the rotation of the Earth. If I am trying to remain stationary relative to a person outside of the train by running backwards as the train is moving forwards, that doesn't mean the train itself is not moving.
No, I get you.
I
get you, and I'm not saying you're wrong.
In the same exact way, you have that relative fuckery going on. You have the relative fuckery going on with your EQ mount or ASMount program to track or whatever. It's the same thing. The movement of the telescope does not mean that the Earth itself isn't moving.
But it kind of means that the sky is moving.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. Relative to you, it is, but that's relative.
Well, of course,
we're talking about what the gyro actually measures. The gyro measures that the Earth is rotating.
It's all relative to you, Red.
The gyro is literally making a measurement here. You're saying, I'm going to disagree with the gyro. I'm going to trust my senses, which I already agreed was insufficient for the task.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to use it anyway because reasons, like, what the fuck?
What is the sidereal motor for in a scope that's going to track?
I already told you, compensation for the Earth's rotation does not disprove the rotation of the Earth itself. You think you're making an argument that says one thing, and in fact it doesn't say that thing at all.
I'm not saying it proves or disproves anything. What I'm saying is, it is true for me, and I think that you guys, if if you think about it without thinking about flat Earth, okay, well, I'm not trying to debate all of the whole thing, the whole universe. I'm saying if we live on the Earth and Astronomy Live, I know that you have sweet equipment and you set it up in a specific way, especially if you're doing like if you're trying to photograph like a part of the sky and actually get like I don't know what you all call it, nebula and all these things. Like if you're actually trying to do a long exposure shot for like hours, you have to be very precise. You have to have the telescope sitting exactly in the right spot, and you have to have it literally moving to follow the moving sky. Now, to say that's compensating for the Earth's rotation, that's called an inference. And I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm saying that the motion of the sky compensates for the motion of the sky, quite literally. You know what I'm saying?
Astronomy Live, I'm going to give you the floor for like 5 minutes. I'm going to go take a shit.
All right.
Friends, I appreciate it, man. I do.
Let me come back to the rotating chair in the room analogy for a second, because you still never really answer my question there.
Okay.
And let me give you a concrete example of this. You can experience this. Now, I don't have any kickbacks from Disney for saying this, but there's a restaurant at Epcot. If you ever go to Disney in Orlando and you go to Epcot, there's a restaurant in the Living with the Land Pavilion that is on a giant platform that slowly rotates. And over the course of, I don't know, an hour or so, it completes one full rotation. So it's rotating at a rate that is significantly greater than the Earth, because in about the time it takes you to eat
24 times faster. Yeah,
exactly. So in the time it takes you to eat your lunch or your dinner over the course of about an hour, you'll see all sections of this ride, because this platform looks out over a ride that you can take a little boat ride on, and it's got different parts of this ride that each have a different theme to them, talking about agriculture and stuff. Okay, so my point is, you're sitting there at your dinner table on this rotating platform that is very slowly rotating, but rotating 24 times faster than the Earth. Okay, so how would you detect that? You could try seeing if you feel the motion. I've been on this, well, I guess you could call it a ride, but dinner experience. I never felt any motion. It's imperceptible.
I would have to say that I wouldn't expect your body to actually be able to, sense that with a feeling or a, you know what I'm saying? I would think that you wouldn't be able to tell unless there was other things you were paying attention to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you have a gyroscope with you. This gyroscope detects this motion. So why would you say, okay, let me start off with this question, just point blank, yes or no. Would you say that this gyroscope is contradicting what your vestibular system is telling you?
I would say, if I'm honest, I would have to say yes.
Okay. Why? Okay, let me ask this question. Would you therefore reject what the gyroscope is telling you because it's contradicting what you are observing with just your senses?
I might have misunderstood how you said that. Could you maybe repeat that? I'm sorry.
I can repeat that. Would you reject what the gyroscope is telling you because the gyroscope is contradicting what you feel with your senses, what you are observing with just your senses?
I would have a hard time to totally reject what the gyroscope was sitting there on my lap telling me.
Okay. Let me ask you this question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You now set up a camera on your dinner table. You take a long exposure, say 30 seconds long. You see that the scene around you outside this restaurant, which you have basically a 360-degree view in this thing. There's no windows there. It's just open to the ride around you, okay? You take a long exposure. You see everything blurring by. It appears to be in motion. Do you conclude that the ride is actually rotating around the restaurant and the restaurant is remaining stationary, that you are stationary, but the ride is moving around you? Do you conclude that the ride is moving around you because you can see it moving around you?
Is this with the information of the gyroscope? in this case?
No, not talking about the gyroscope. Just talking
okay.
about the photo. You take a
Okay,
long
then
exposure photo.
I would say it would appear that the things around me are moving.
Mm-hmm. Now you look at the gyroscope, and the gyroscope tells you, actually, you're the one moving. And you're moving at exactly the same rate that you see
those things
the world around you moving.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
and that I would say is a great analogy for for the idea of how we see the stars from a globe. If we were on a globe, that's a great analogy the way you put that. And I'm being honest, I would have a hard time rejecting, especially if it matched. Do you know what I'm saying? Especially if it matched the motion of the things I'm seeing. If I'm thinking those are going around me, but then I look at the gyroscope and it says, "Oh, you're moving," I would have a hard time with arguing with that. Just like this whole conversation is, I think a lot of people hearing this are probably thinking, "Well, Joe, you're kind of ridiculous. Why are you fighting this?" He's coming up with an analogy that clearly shows that we could be, our senses could be, tricked or inaccurate. So I'm not trying to argue that I have some better way. All I'm trying to do is say that the whole world we live in, and it's not just one sense. It's not just our vestibular system or something. It's many more. And like you did a really good job in that analogy of kind of putting all that in there. So there's that's like quite, I might have to clip that and try to think about that a little bit more, the way you just put it.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Just being honest, I mean, I do have an issue that's interesting anyway with that gyroscope, is wouldn't you agree that generally the sky rotates as far as, apparent rotation, if we were to call it that? I'm trying to be fair to what you think too, but the apparent rotation of the sky is close to about 15 degrees, right, per hour.
The apparent rotation, yes, but it's just like the example of the restaurant, right? The ride around you appears to be, there's an apparent rotation of the ride that is 24 times larger. Mm-hmm.
And it matches with that measurement that's on the gyroscope.
Right, exactly.
Or maybe the opposite or whatever, but the number is the same movement or rotation in degrees.
Correct. It matches with the gyroscope. And just like that example, I can take a gyroscope that's sufficiently accurate and get a reading that tells me that I'm rotating at 15 degrees an hour, not the sky.
Yep. And that's where I have a hard time, because I think science, and I'm not trying to appeal to a word or a way that we, like a team or something, but science, in my understanding, you wouldn't have, I guess this is what we have though. We have an inference, and that's probably not the best word to use. We have prior knowledge or alternate knowledge about something that does literally oppose the observations we make, or some of the observations we make, this rotation being one of these here that really Reds is talking about the flat earth and the globe and all that, and I get it, but it is the rotation that is one of the, you can look at my channel, that's one of the biggest things to me that I have a problem with, is that everything I do in this world and everything that I experience in this world, it's in a world that isn't moving. And the sky in this world, the sky above it, is moving. And I know we have instruments and things, but I think it just, that's what I have a hard time with. I'm not here to say, oh, I won the argument or I won the debate. That's not what it's about. But
I honestly believe at this point, it's not that you accept that the instruments are flawed or whatever. You have, for some reason, and I don't know what it is, could be the Bible, could be an emotional attachment, I don't know, but I think you're just rejecting them outright because you just don't like what they're telling you.
Let me give you one more element to the thought experiment.
Okay.
And I just want you to think about this for a while. Imagine you were born at this restaurant and you grew up on this restaurant and you never knew anything outside of this restaurant that is rotating
Okay.
24 times faster than the earth. And somebody comes to your table and hands you a gyroscope that can read this rotation and tells you it's not the world outside that's rotating. It's you here in this restaurant. The restaurant's been rotating since before you were born.
I'd be a flat restaurateur. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. That's a good addition to the mind exercise, because that's kind of similar to, I mean, your analogy gets more and more similar to this not argument, debate, whatever, this conversation or whatever. So that, you guys, at Astronomy Live, when you talk about stuff, it always makes me think, and say with you, Rick, always makes me think of another thing or a different way. But then again, at the same time, Red, you like to, or you said asshole, right? That part comes out, and it seems like you can use that when you really want to almost look at it, or make people, or not make, but encourage people to look at it your way. Now, the thing that I still, and I, maybe this is, I don't want to just keep beating this over, but I see inferences and assumptions that not that they're wrong, but I'm not comfortable with something that goes against what I observe. Like, and
that's what I was, not to cut you off, but I have to,
no,
because
good.
that's literally what I'm saying. You are putting way too much stock in your senses. You are using the wrong tool for the job, and there is an emotional attachment to that for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is, but for whatever that reason is, you're saying that, listen, I agree, this tool is better, faster, stronger, whatever. It's up to the task, and I have acknowledged that there's certain things that my body, that my senses are not up to the task on. But I'm just going to say, for no reason whatsoever, that I trust my senses over a gyroscope. That I trust my senses over, insert better tool here. I would rather use the scissors than the lawnmower in this analogy. I don't know why you have such a love affair with your senses, knowing damn well that they're not perfect, but that's your problem. If you keep harping on about how your senses have to agree with the tools and equipment that's around you, then, dude, toss out your speedometer, toss out the thermometer, toss out all that crap. Just hold your hand in front of the oven and think to yourself, is that exactly 400 degrees? And then eat the undercooked meat that's in it. Let me tell you how good that's going to work out for you. You're going to find yourself in the hospital where doctors are going to use tools and equipment to diagnose your ass and fix you up and get you back out so you could fuck this up all over again. Red,
you're a classic.
I don't know why you're choosing to operate in this way, but
what about ignoring it? Ignoring your observation.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. While I don't know why you're choosing to operate in this way, I'm also going to accept that there's nothing I can do to get you out of this rut that you're in. I think you're perpetually stuck in this rut. You got to find your own way out of it, and I hope you do. But until you do, you're going to continue to make a complete ass out of yourself by bringing up this argumentation or this position.
Well, I think that and don't take offense, but obviously we have disagreements on things, but I do appreciate that we can actually have, and we've done this before, and I think people would think that you'd fly off the handle and start swearing at me or cuss me out or something, but that's not who you are. You're actually, you care about the people that you're talking to and the conversation you're having. So I gotta thank you for that, and give you props for that. When people would tend to say that you don't do that. You know what I mean? But I think at the same time, I don't have a love affair with my senses. I just live in a real world where some things are apparent and some things are ideas, and some people can think these ideas and think they're correct, but not realize that they're actually able to ignore other ones, like other their own everything that you experience is relative to you, if that makes some sense.
Well,
Without,
we're gonna end this this hangout on one question. One question. So effed up world. Your final question. The next time you go to cook meat in the oven, are you going to use a thermometer?
I'll just hit the oven buttons, man. It's just an oven. No, I'm just teasing. Yeah, I'll use the oven. I'll preheat it to what it probably would be safe to cook it at, and I'll cook it there. As long as if I'm out at a campfire, I'll make sure it's cooked.
Neat. All right, I'm going to ask you to leave now.
Cool. Well, hey, you guys, I appreciate it. I do, and I'm always interested in talking about this stuff. And hey, Red, I know you're not. I'm not trying to confuse you. There, some of those other videos, the last couple I put up, the one it had wings, and some of those ones, that has to do with some things in the Bible. And so those, that's something you might not be interested in. You might, but
what about the Bible?
I made a video that had Michelle Thaler in it, and
yeah, that was kind of stupid.
Well, and if you, it's based on something that was written a long time ago that really seems to be very close to something that you yourself film and do a great job.
I'm just gonna be point blank with you. I'm gonna be very blunt with you.
Okay, I'm ready.
The very moment you told me that the Falcon 9 and the SpaceX Dragon were in the Bible, I stopped taking your shit seriously whenever you brought up the Bible.
And Red, I don't want to correct you, but I didn't say that they were in the Bible. I said that this, if you compare these things, that it's not ridiculous to look at it and say these guys possibly see ahead in time.
No, I'm saying it is completely ridiculous, and I'm not playing that.
That's fine.
That is a flavor bullshit I will not even pretend to entertain. I'm sorry. There is no way in hell you're gonna have me go down that fucking rabbit hole. Absolutely not.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
that's fine.
I'm gonna remove you from the call now. Have a good day.
Landing rockets is
Why? Straw me live. Help.
I have a new way to refer to him in the future now.
Wow.
He is a child of the restaurant, and I fear he will always be a child of the restaurant. And everyone watching this will hopefully understand the reference there going forward. It's in my mind, it's a lot like the allegory of Plato's cave, and he's a prisoner of that cave and struggles to come to terms with the concept of the shadows dancing upon the wall being different from real physical objects, that kind of thing. But that's why I gave him the allegory or the analogy of this restaurant idea, because it's something you could actually just experience and see. And I would hope that it would spark some kind of realization that, hey, maybe my senses aren't the end all be all, and maybe instruments can tell me more about the world than I can feel just intuitively. But it doesn't seem like he's really okay with that. I mean, he even has sort of indicated that he struggles with that. He has a real problem with that, and that's fine. I appreciate him being cordial and diplomatic in his responses, but I fear he's always going to be a child of the restaurant.
Yeah, for some reason he's just stuck in this rut, and yeah, there's nothing that you could do or I could do to convince him otherwise. And again, he will sit there and agree with everything that we're saying, and then immediately go off on a tangent where somewhere along the lines he says something that immediately goes against that. This was a shit show. This was a complete shit show, and this stream was pointless. It should never have existed. I'm regretting it already. This wow.
It was entertaining, Red. It was entertaining. It was entertaining to Scott Manley. He was here being entertained by it. So take some solace in that.
This is so far below him. Oh my God. It's like, shit.
I mean,
wow, that was. But I'm just saying, like, it's like the sexual tension between my head and the wall. They just want to bang each other all night long after this. Fuck. Okay, so Astronomy Live, thank you so much for being here. Since yes, I see call's gonna end in 10 minutes. This show won't take 10 minutes. So while everyone is here, I'll tell you this much. Please subscribe to Astronomy Live's YouTube channel. He helped me with the previous video that I uploaded on this channel, and it was an amazing collaborative work. So please watch it, and you'll find his links in the description. I'll also put his links in the description of this hangout. And fuck it, I'll also put eftupworld's links in the description too, because it's only fair. Yeah, sorry that you guys had to watch this or suffer through it, but then again, maybe I'm not sorry, because you all chose to be here. You could have left at any time, and you chose this. You have no one to blame but yourself. So don't come at me with that shit. It's like, oh, how dare you put us through this? You chose to be here. Fuck.
And Scott Manley, if you're still watching, hit me up on Twitter sometime. I want to get you set up to do some remote rocket tracking from there in California to over here in Florida. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So hit me up on Twitter sometime, and we'll see what we can do to set you up to remote control one of my telescopes while I'm out at the Cape. I think that'd be awesome for you to be able to track it with your joystick over there.
Yep, and actually on that note, I am going to go ahead and actually end this stream after I say this. That offer to remote control your telescope isn't just to Scott Manley. It's also to any flat earther that actually wants to take up that opportunity. See, we have the ability to set up anybody in the world with the ability to control the telescopes as they're making observations. So if we have a International Space Station pass that's going over our location, and you wish to be behind the controls of that telescope to see it for yourself and film it for yourself, hit us up on Twitter and we'll get you set up with that. But with that, many thanks to Astronomy Live, and I guess many thanks to eftupworld, maybe, depending on your definition. My name is Red. This has been his Rhetoric, and as always, have a good night. And with that,